All right, my friends, we are live directly from the White House. President Biden is about to deliver remarks concerning so-called climate change. Here he goes.
You see it up here? It's on the right side. I don't know whether you can see it. And thank you to all of you, for the climate scientists and experts who are here today and all across the country who have contributed to this critical endeavor. I particularly want to thank Allison Crimmins, who put together the team to write this report and what we're releasing today. It was an easy thing to do, not much to it. Only about 700 people had to get in line. Well, more than 30 years ago, Congress passed a law that called for a detailed scientific report on the impacts of global changes in the environment. Since then, these assessments delivered to the Congress and the President have been the go-to resource in America for information on climate change and for developing climate solutions. Today, I'm proud to announce that my administration just released the 5th climate assessment on our nation's history. It didn't just come from out of thin air. Written over 4 years, 750 authors and experts, thousands of American contributors from every single state in the nation, as well as several territories and tribes. It's the most comprehensive assessment on state climate change in the history of America. And it matters. This assessment shows us in clear scientific terms that climate change is impacting all regions, all sectors of the United States, not just some, all. It shows that communities across America are taking more action than ever to reduce climate risks. It warns that more action is still badly needed. We can't be complacent. Let me say that again. We can't be complacent. We have to keep going. Above all, it shows us that climate action offers an opportunity for the nation to come together and do some really big things. I've seen firsthand what the reports make clear: the devastating toll of climate change and its existential threat to all of us, and it is the ultimate threat to humanity, climate change. I've walked the streets of Louisiana.
Can you believe that? The ultimate threat to
New York,
humanity.
Florida, Puerto Rico.
We'll talk about it.
Where historic hurricanes and floods wiped out homes, hospitals, houses of worship, just wiped them right off the map. I've met with families in Texas, Kentucky, Mississippi, where catastrophic winter storms and tornadoes devoured everything in their path: schools, businesses, police stations, the firehouse. I've seen firefighters in Idaho, Maui, and New Mexico, California, Colorado, where wildfires destroyed whole neighborhoods and sacred tribal sites, spreading smoky haze thousands of miles and forcing millions of Americans to shelter indoors and unsafe air to breathe. Look, and by the way, and I've flown over all these areas in helicopters. They tell me that more of our forest has burned to the ground than make up the entire state of New Jersey. The entire state. Some say Maryland, New Jersey, but the point is, that's just gigantic and has incredible impacts. Record temperatures in Texas, Arizona, and elsewhere are affecting lives and livelihoods of more than 100 million Americans. And this summer and this fall have been the Earth's hottest since the global records began to be kept in the 1800s. Think about that. The hottest we've ever recorded in history. It's an impact that decades are in making because inaction there was inaction for much too long. Look, but we're acting now. We have been acting. We've come to the point where it's foolish for anyone to deny the impacts of climate change anymore. But it's simply a simple fact that there are a number of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, mega Republican leaders, who still deny climate change, still deny that it's a problem. My predecessors, much of the MAGA Republican Party,
you're a denier.
In fact,
this guy's nuts.
Feel very strongly about that. Anyone who willfully denies the impact of climate change is condemning the American people to a very dangerous future. The impacts we're seeing are only going to get worse, more frequent, more ferocious, and more costly. Last year alone, natural disasters in America caused $178 billion in damages. They hit everyone, no matter what their circumstances, but they hit the most vulnerable the hardest: seniors, people with disabilities, people experiencing homelessness who have nowhere to turn, Black, brown, and tribal communities, territories that are most exposed and have the fewest resources. But folks, none of this is inevitable. None of it's inevitable. From day one, my administration has taken unprecedented climate action. We're working with everyone from mayors to county officials to entrepreneurs to academics, business leaders, labor leaders, tribal leaders. We're focused in all parts of America, cities, suburbs, small towns, and rural communities and tribal nations. And here's how. We're using a law I got passed when I first came to office called the American Rescue Plan to help states and cities become more resilient to climate change, promoting energy efficiency by weatherizing homes, reducing flooding by building infrastructure to handle storm surges, opening cooling centers impacted in centers where there's particular great heat impact and people need a shelter. Tomorrow is the anniversary of the bipartisan infrastructure law, which I signed 2 years ago, and the most significant investment in our nation's infrastructure in American history. Roads, bridges, ports, airports, high-speed internet. It delivers clean water to your community, lowers your energy bills, upgrades your electric grid, so you don't have to power them, so you don't have to lose power, I should say, when storms and heat waves hit. The CHIPS and Science Act I signed last year. Excuse me. I signed last year. Excuse me. I signed last year. Positions us to lead in semiconductor manufacturing and innovation, which is critical to clean energy development and deployment. Semiconductors are those small little computer chips you all know, the size of the tip of your little finger, that power everything in our lives, from smartphones to appliances. We invented those chips. We invented them. And where the other countries started making them. And we weren't. Not anymore. We're making these chips here in America. And my Inflation Reduction Act is the most significant climate investment ever anywhere in the world. Among many things it does, it offers tax credits to make your home more energy efficient, upgrading windows and doors to keep drafts out and heat in, tax credits to installing electric heat pumps and solar panels on your roof,
and costing all the consumers more money.
Your family bills. Tax credits to buy electric vehicles as we build the electric vehicle future here in America. We're transforming clean energy development that's threatening good-paying jobs, including union jobs, in all of America. We're already attracted we've attracted $500 billion in private sector investment from my Investing in America agenda in clean energy and advanced manufacturing. We're just getting started. I mean, we really are. We're just getting started. All told, my Investing in America agenda and those bold climate laws are the most ambitious in American history. Today's release, the 5th National Climate Assessment, is a critical part of that effort. It lays out the threats and dangers, but most experts would acknowledge it also shows solutions are within reach. Solutions are within reach. It takes time for the investments we're making to be fully materialized, but we just have to keep at it. We need to do more and move faster. We have the tools to do it. And for the first time ever, we're also releasing a report with a new online tool that I just was shown a moment ago in the other room. So everyone can explore exactly what's happening in their state, their city, and their county by going online to whitehouse.gov/NCA. whitehouse.gov/NCA. That's very different from the previous administration that tried to bury this report. They didn't even want to make sure this report even came to light. We're shining it we're sharing this report.
Funny
in
how he
detail
wants to work
with the American
bipartisan,
people so
but
they know
he
exactly what
slams
they're facing
the
and what we're
previous
gonna have to do.
administration.
But that's not all. Along with this assessment, I'm announcing $6 billion in new investments from the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law to make communities across the country more resilient to climate change. This funding will be administered by the Department of Energy, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Interior, and the Federal Emergency Management Agency. It's going to be focused on key climate goals, including modernizing our aging electric grid to withstand extreme weather, which is causing these forest fires when those towers come down, lines snap, they catch fire. The forests catch fire. It costs a lot more money to bury this underground and do other things, but we have to do it. And it's causing significant outages as well. Reducing flood risk in communities, improving drought resilience, supporting conservation for our national parks. I've already been able to conserve 21 million acres of our most precious and sacred lands and waters just thus far, just in the first 2.5 years. And advancing environmental justice for disadvantaged communities, because they're the ones always left behind. Let me close with this. Last week, I stopped by the White House Demo Day to meet with the scientists and experts overseeing groundbreaking and cutting-edge science and technology that my administration is funding right now, right here in America. It was truly inspirational hearing from experts from all across the government, the private sector, and academia, touching on so many fields. I saw a prosthetic arm that can sense touch and is controlled by one's thoughts. Prosthetic arm. It's just like your head. You think you want to move your finger, well, it worked out. You think he wants to move his hand, you can do it. It's an incredible breakthrough. Electric heat pumps to help old homes transition to clean energy homes of the future. Robots for ocean exploration that survey marine life along unmapped seafloors where barely any light penetrates, and so much more. It was a reminder, at least for me, of what I've long believed, that America can be defined by a single word. I mean this sincerely. The single that I was asked by Xi Jinping years ago when we were in the Tibetan Plateau, could I define America? I said, yeah, one word, possibilities. Possibilities. In this administration, America will be the place where great science changes what's possible. That's why I've never been more optimistic about America's future. We just have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America. And there's nothing beyond our capacity if we work together. Well, God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Sir, what are the possibilities in San Francisco, Mr. President?
And how would you define success with your meeting with President Xi?
To get back on a normal course of corresponding, being able to pick up a phone and talk to one another if there's a crisis, being able to make sure our military still have contact with one another. We can't take, as I told you, we're not trying to decouple from China, but what we're trying to do is change the relationship for the better. From my perspective, if in fact the Chinese people who are in trouble right now economically, if the average if the average citizen in China was able to have a decent paying job, that benefits them and it benefits all of us. But I'm not going to continue to sustain the support for positions where if we want to invest in China, we have to turn over all our trade secrets. Thank you.
Mr. President, can you address the hostages directly and give them a message of hope and resilience in these troubling times?
Yes, I can. I've been talking with the people involved every single day. I believe it's going to happen, but I don't want to get into detail.
What's your message for the families?
Hang in there. We're coming.
Will you sign the CR?
Mr. President, there's a report out this morning that Israel and Hamas are close to a deal for the release of 70 of the hostages. Is there anything you can add to that?
No. Thank you.
Will you sign the CR?
Thank you, sir.
All right. There you have it. That was an interesting press conference, especially right there at the last. You have, let's get our feed straight here. That was a live feed directly from the White House. Some of the breaking news, at least from my perspective, was at the end of the press conference. You have President Joe Biden stating that he believes that there's going to be a deal for the hostages. So that's breaking news, and that's going to be interesting to see if that works out. Also, in relation to his upcoming meeting with the Prime Minister of China, he said that he views success basically getting the military to where they are talking again. He said that we are not trying to decouple from China, which of course I think is a mistake. When they're acting inappropriately, I think we need to absolutely decouple. That's just my opinion. I realize this video is probably not going to get a lot of traction on YouTube, but I definitely have to tell you straight up that the president is just wrong when it comes to this climate crisis. I want to tell you that I believe it's very important that we take care of our environment. There's really no other way to say it. Our environment is important, and we all have a fiduciary duty to take care of our planet, to take care of Mother Nature, if you will. At the same time, it's unfortunate that all this has become so political. And what really bothers me is when you disagree with this administration, they call you a climate change denier. You're evil. You're a denier. In other words, that's code for you can't think for yourself. You don't know what you're talking about. Well, it's just my humble opinion. If you disagree, put it in the comments below. But I'm going to tell you straight up, when I was a kid in school in the 1970s, I was told that today we would probably be under 5 to 10 feet of ice, that there was a coming ice age. And part of the rationale for that is they were telling me at the time when I was in elementary school that they drill core samples from the North Pole, from the Antarctic, and that the amount of time between normal climate and an ice age is roughly about 30 years. They were literally scaring us to death. It's really unfortunate they're still indoctrinating kids when in reality they just don't know what the climate is going to do. The funny thing is, when you look up the definition of climate, climate by definition is temperature, is weather patterns over time as they change, because by definition, climate does change. Again, it's very unfortunate that there cannot be reasonable people sitting down trying to find common sense solutions. But I do know this. I don't care what they tell you out there. When it comes to climate change, they can say it's hot, that it's hotter today than it's been before, and that might be true. We might actually be in a hot spot. But I can also tell you this. In the 1930s, just go ahead and Google it. Look up the Dust Bowl. It was so hot then that in Oklahoma, parts of Texas, Arkansas, the weather was making its own weather. It was so hot that they had the Dust Bowl era. That's where that title comes from. So this is what Al Gore would call an inconvenient truth. And what they ended up doing with a lot of the records from the 1930s, again, Google this, they recently did this, I think it was the beginning of this year, end of last year. They did not like the information that the 1930s, 1940s produced, so what did they do? They threw it out. They said it was just simply unreliable. So basically, when Democrats, when liberals don't like a particular subject, they don't like a particular data set, they just simply eliminate it. But when I was a kid, we were told we were heading into an ice age. Then they changed it into something else, and then, of course, it morphed into global warming. Then politicians were giving speeches out in the freezing snow saying that everything is warming up, looking like fools, and then what do? They changed it again from global warming. Now, it's just climate change. That way, no matter what happens, they can always say, oh, look, climate change. It's going to kill us all. It is an immediate existential threat. Can you believe that? We have a world burning right now. We have a weak, ineffective leader in the White House, and his number one priority is climate change? Really? Does that make sense to you? How about taking care of our people, taking care of our power grid? He is making it to where we can't even own gasoline cars in the very near future. He wants to put all the vehicles on the power grid, the same power grid that has not had a new station built in 30, 35 years as far as improving the electric grid or building a new nuclear plant so we can produce electricity. Go ahead and look up your own facts. I always encourage everybody to free their mind. That's what my channel is all about, is helping you educate yourself so you can make the best choices for your own life and live your best life possible. I definitely appreciate you joining me today. As always, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Be sure to hit the like button. Until next time, my friends, I am JRDukes.